been an interesting year. As hard as it's been, I don't think it's been all bad. I think I know I personally kind of learned from it and gotten some perspectives on a lot of things that I didn't have time to slow down and think about before, so I think in the long run, I think it'll be a positive. But I want to do, I'd say one of the positives for me was just getting to write a lot, because we normally don't get to do that. Normally you're out all the time, and then you just get to, you come home and you're home for 2 or 3 days, and you kind of cram everything in, or you're writing in the back of the van. There's never just time, So, and recording process is kind of the same way. You just sneak it in, whenever you can find a few days off the road. And so we had a whole year of just writing and recording. So I got two new records recorded during this whole lockdown. So I'm ready to start putting these out. But I want to do a new song for you that it probably wouldn't have gotten written if it weren't for this quarantine, because it's just such I needed the time and the space to be able to do this one. So the origins of this song came from Courtney and I go to Italy every year. We've gone for about 5 years. We go every year and love it. We love Italy, and it's just one of our favorite places. And we always try to build in some spare time over there. And one year we built in about a week to just go travel and do some things not music related, And one of the places I wanted to go was Anzio Beach, because that's where in World War II there was a big battle there, and that's where my grandfather fought. So when I was growing up hearing about him fighting in the war, that's where it was Anzio, and I heard about it my whole life. And I knew about it. It was this huge battle, and the Americans it was supposed to be this surprise attack where we were finally going to invade Italy, and we did. It was a surprise attack, and then the general in charge of the whole thing screwed up real bad. And instead of just going forward, once we had the surprise thing, he stopped and waited for reinforcements, and then during that time, the word got out. So the Italians came and they kind of pinned the Americans down on this beach, and they were up on the cliffs, and they were stuck there for a long time. And so that's where he was. And the way I heard it described, I just thought of it as this huge beach. I've been to Normandy and those beaches, and they're just these huge, massive beaches. Well, Anzio is it's tiny. I mean, it's probably about twice as big as this room. And and there were thousands of people stuck there. And so anyway, we're standing on that beach, and I'm just looking around thinking, how in the world do these guys do this? How did they live here for months, and a lot of them didn't make it. And so I thought my grandfather had made one wrong move. If he had done one thing different, then I wouldn't be standing there to be thinking that thought, on the beach. So it was a big idea, and I didn't know what to do with it. And finally, this year during the quarantine, Courtney and I were driving through the mountains in Georgia, and all of a sudden I said, who I should call for that song is Drew Kennedy. Drew Kennedy's one of the best songwriters that I know, and he's definitely one of the most literary, the most literary songwriter that I know. And I thought, if there's anybody that is the call for this, it's him. So I called him up, and we wrote this over Zoom. And here it is. We heard the quiet buzzing of a fly. For a second, he wasn't quite sure what it was. Till it tickled his face, and he opened his eyes on a beach in the French summer sun. Sulfur in the air, and smelled something worse. He leaned up on his elbow and looked around. Wiped some blood from his face, and saw his buddy James mangled, torn apart on the ground. medics got to him, and he thanked God they did. He spent 27 days in a field hospital before making the slow trip home to the States, minus one leg, which still seemed impossible. He got a job sorting mail at the Birmingham post office, 5 days a week, enough pay to get by. He met a beautiful girl through a mutual friend. 11 months later, that girl was his wife. The nightmares were often and so vivid and real. He'd wake up screaming a few times a week. But she was patient, kind, stayed by his side. Each time he found a more restful sleep. By the next year, they had him a son who got drafted when he turned 18. He went off to fight, but he came back cold. Met my mom, they had me. And I come from a long line of soldiers whose blood's still flowing through me. They fought in fields of foreign land, so I could be who I wanted to be. Well, I broke the streak and I went to college instead of Kabul or Kuwait. I earned my degree and I got hired to teach Shakespeare, Wordsworth, Yeats. In a decent-sized high school outside of Atlanta, I did the best that I could. Yeah, that's heavy stuff for kids that age. But all in all, I think I did some good. I come from a long line of soldiers whose blood still flowing through me. They fought in fields of foreign land, so I could be who I wanted to be. They heard the quiet buzzing of a fly. For a second, he wasn't quite sure what it was, until it tickled his face, he opened his eyes, and then he died there in that French summer sun. That girl he would have met sorting mail back in Birmingham, she met a lawyer and they fell in love. So their story ends before it began, on that beach in the French summer sun. That child she had, well, that wasn't my dad. I wasn't ever his son. So my story ends before it began, on that beach in the French summer sun. I come from a long line of soldiers whose blood flowed into the sea. War took more than just one life, took him and his son, me.